This is a video series about how to install and trial the various white toner RIPs using your Macintosh. There are several systems on the Macintosh that can be used to install Windows environments. Parallels or Boot Camp are the common ones. We're installing VirtualBox in this particular case because it's free, doesn't cost you anything, and some of the research that we've done indicates that it is pretty much the same speed as the other systems are. You may have slightly slower response time, but generally speaking, it should be about the same speed, which would give you enough to be able to test your RIPs and potentially even to run them in full production environment. If not, you can certainly install either Parallels or Boot Camp. And then once we've downloaded VirtualBox, then we want to go over and download one of the ISOs for a Windows operating system. This one is for Windows 10. Shows you where to go and how to download, select the options and download the ISO, the disk image file for Windows 10. Recommended to download the 64-bit version. The particular Mac that I'm working with here is a very old, it's a 2009 model Mac Mini. And so it doesn't have enough capabilities to really be able to run Windows 10. So we are also downloading Windows 7. This one is from SoftLay. Then next we're going to go over to the Forever site and we're going to download their TransferRIP demo. To download this, you'll need to register. You'll create an account on their site and that'll take you to their Dropbox link. Recommend that you actually download pretty much everything in that folder. At the very least, you'll need the RIP and the driver for your particular white toner printer. Then after that, we're going to go over to the Uninet site and we're going to download the ProRIP from their site, the 15-day trial version of the ProRIP. So we download all of these into a local folder on our Macintosh. So here are the files that we'll be working with during this installation. So the first one that we want to do or run is we want to mount the DMG, the disk image file for VirtualBox, and then run the installation package. So easy to run. It'll check your machine to make sure the settings that you need are available, and then it will install Then we want to run VirtualBox out of the where you want to tell it to put it into the applications folder and then run it from applications. This will start up VirtualBox for the first time. And if you've had VirtualBox installed before, then you'll either update or install the latest extensions. These extensions are important because they enable things like the drag and drop and copy and paste between two windows. So once it's installed, then you want to create a new machine. Here you can give it whatever name that you like, and then select the version of Windows that you're going to be working with. In our case, we selected the fixed size just to improve the performance. Then you'll want to go into the settings and check a couple of things. You want to make sure you've got memory set up for it. Set your display memory up high enough to give you the best display performance. Main thing is to go into storage, select the optical drive and choose a disk file, and then select the ISO for the Windows system that you've downloaded, so that will get mounted as a disk in your CD, in your virtual CD, if you will. You can also check and make sure your network is connected so that you have network access, especially needed if you want to start working with a network printer. Then verify and select the ISO, boot your system up, and it will start from the Windows installation mode. Then this is a typical Windows installation. So you're just literally installing Windows inside of this virtual system. So you would typically go through, select the version of Windows, Windows Professional, that type of thing is typically the one that's used for these types of systems. And then just click and select the various options as you would for any standard Windows setup. This is a custom. You want to do a full fresh install, so no upgrade. And then let Windows do the installation. Then you want to give some name for your Windows 7 system. Here we're calling it RIP Test VirtualBox. You can put in a password or not. I mean, it's running in virtual mode. If you don't have a key, then you can just simply leave it blank, and that'll give you a test period. You can use it for quite a number of days before it will make you activate. Enough time for you to be able to try it out and see if everything's working for you. The free trial. This is tell it it's a work network. Then the first thing that you're going to want to do once it's up and running is make sure that you install the guest editions. So you want to insert the guest editions CD image, because this is what enables the nice features of drag and drop, copy and paste, things like that between the Macintosh OS and the Windows OS. So once you've installed the guest editions CD, then just click on that CD and double click on the application, the main application, which will start up the installation, and select the one that it will install for your particular version of Windows, whether it's 10 or 7 or 32-bit or 64-bit. And then let this install, and after it installs, then simply restart your VirtualBox. Now, one good thing to do, from time to time especially, is to make a snapshot. This way, if you ever want to come back to a particular point and redo something, then you have that capability. So this will take a snapshot of what your virtual system looks like at this particular moment, and at any time in the future you can go and revert back to this snapshot, and you'll be back at this exact same point. For example, a clean system. Then once you've done that, taken the snapshot, then start your system back up. And so here's where we can turn on things like our shared folder. Shared folder can be either what are called machine folders, which are permanent folders, or transient folders, which are only available during this particular instance of running. And these will be folders on your Macintosh that you can then essentially mount and make available in the Windows system, so that it will see that folder as a Windows folder and give you the opportunity to access the files inside of it. So in this case, we're mounting the folder where we have our other installation files. Then in addition, you want to enable things like your shared clipboard and also the ability to drag and drop between both systems. Makes it really convenient to be able to work with it that way. Then we can open up the file system on the Windows. We can go into Network, and we want to look for the name of the VBox server is what it is, and that's where your shared folder will exist. And from here, we can pull things like the TransferRIP installation package and the printer driver module for your printer that we downloaded from the Forever site. We simply drag and drop those onto our desktop here and be able to run them and install them. So now we go through the process of installing the TransferRIP, and this is well documented in the various videos for the TransferRIP. So you just follow the basic procedures for running the installation, and then double click to start up the application. It will pick up a machine ID that you can send in. If you copy that, then since you have copy and paste, you can simply copy it on the Windows and paste it into a Macintosh email and send that in to get a trial license. And then of course you want to set it up. You want to go into your global settings, set it to inches and dollars, things like that, and then you're ready to start working with it. You'll load the driver module for your particular printer, and then the machine will be ready to start going. Now, after the installation of any software like a RIP, you'll want to restart your machine so that you've got a nice fresh boot to work with. The VirtualBox application itself does not have to be running in order for the VirtualBox instance as well to be running. Then from here, you can use the simple drag and drop feature to drag and drop files from the Macintosh into the Windows system, where you can then start processing those files on the machine, the virtual machine. And again, this is documented in all of the standard TransferRIP documentation. In the main settings is where we can set up or establish machine folders, which then become permanent mounts. Every time the system starts, it will mount that. In addition to that, this is also where we can mount our USB devices. So if we have, as in this case, a USB dongle, here it's called the OEM HID UniKey, that's the dongle for the TransferRIP, then we can select that UniKey here and it will automatically mount that USB device every time the system is started. So now this time it will start up with the dongle attached, and you'll see the first time it starts up that it will install the device driver software for that dongle. Once that has installed, then we can simply start the RIP up, and the RIP will now see that dongle as the dongle ID. This is where we can also take advantage of the copy and paste function. If we've received the license file for our dongle on, for example, our Macintosh email, so we just simply double click on the PDF, we copy the license out of that PDF file in preview on the Macintosh, and then once we've copied it there, we simply go over to the Windows box and paste it in there, and the copy and paste function works great. And that updates the license so that we're now running in fully licensed mode. And the same for the trial license. And now we can simply run our jobs, and we've got full use of all the files, being able to process jobs. So before we can actually access our printer, we need to go to the Oki site or wherever the white toner printer site is, and we need to download the driver for the printer that we're wanting to print to. And we want to make sure that you download the Windows version of that driver. It'll detect, for example, that you're on a Macintosh and offer to download the Macintosh, but you really want to download the Windows version because we want to install that driver on the Windows system so that the TransferRIP will be able to locate the printer that we want to use. So we simply download that, we drag that into our shared folder, and then once it's in the shared folder, then now we can go onto the Windows system and have access to that file, and we can install that driver. One of the things that we can also do is create an alias on our desktop for our virtual system. This will keep us from having to double click and start VirtualBox and then start the operating system. Once we've created this desktop alias, then we can just simply double click that anytime we want to start up the RIP operating system. You can even configure the Windows system to automatically start the RIP, if you'd really like to kind of automate this. So we can drag and drop the installers from our folder right into the Windows system and then simply run the driver installer. Now, if your printer is a local printer, in other words, if it's hooked up by USB, and what you have to do with that is you have to make sure that you go up to the devices, USB, and select that USB printer it'll show up in this list. So if it's there, you'll see it, and you can select it and it'll mount it to your Windows system. And we typically prefer and recommend that you use an Ethernet connection. In this particular case, I'm just putting in basic numbers just as a as a demonstration. And then you install that particular driver onto your Windows system. Now, once this is done, we can start the RIP back up and take it all the way through loading our job. And then in the last tab, if we go into the pop-up, now we'll see our printer, and we can select that printer, and when we click print, then the job will get sent by network to that printer or by USB to that printer. Now, if you're going to install the Uninet ProRIP, then you need to install Windows 10. We were not able to install Windows 10. We were not able to get this properly updated to the latest version of Internet Explorer due to the minuscule capabilities. So that concludes this demonstration. Thank you for your time.